Welcome to Joburg. Today I am your host, Leroy Viaggi. It's only been a month since Herman Mashaba took to the office of mayor, and we managed to get an opportunity with him to have a one-on-one chat about a few issues, from fees must fall to the issue of migrancy to mismanagement. The new mayor says he's serious about tackling all.
Mr. Mayor, there's so much to talk about, so much going on in the city of Johannesburg, but let's start at the beginning. How would you describe your first month in office?
Well, it's been a very interesting journey, mixed emotions, setting up government, appointing the executives, starting with the MMCs and engaging city employees, particularly the heads of department and senior people, working with the city manager, having my first council meeting last week. First, obviously, second one, because obviously the first one, that's when I was elected as mayor. And last week, focus on now the appointment of chairpersons of the various committees to work with the councils to ensure that we deliver services to the people of Johannesburg.
Okay, so the jelly is still settling?
Yeah, it's still settling, just under a month in office. But I think I'm quite pleased with our achievements. It's been great. It's been satisfying. When I go home, I sleep, obviously tired, but I sleep, get up in the morning, go to gym and come back here. And it's a kind of work where you work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Sure. I want to talk about this current hot issue, the Fees Must Fall campaign. Protests taking place at Witwatersrand University, at universities across the country, different universities, following that statement by the Higher Education Minister on fee increments not exceeding 8%. The students are angry, they're upset. I'm curious to know what your thoughts are on this issue.
Well, it's a difficult situation because this is the government that promised our youth, our students, free education. What I need to understand, when they made this promise, whatever time, where did they think they were going to get the money from? Was it just politicking, or were they thinking that they were going to get away with it? Now, all of a sudden, it's caught up with them, and I think it's up to government to sort it out. But for me, as a South African, what concerns me is, where's the money going to come from for free education? Because if you look at the balance sheet of this country, sure, with all the best intentions, it is my wish and hope that one day I can live in a country where we can afford free education, particularly higher education. But can South Africa today afford it? Our balance sheet is there for all of us to see. This country cannot afford free education.
So not an immediate reality.
Yeah, that is why I don't understand when the government, when they were politicking a few years ago, promising that there's going to be free education. I think they owe it to us and the students in particular as to why they made these promises.
Let's talk about the thorny issue of migrancy. It's a concern because this is the city of opportunity, the city of gold. People from all over the continent come here looking for better opportunities, and every now and then that ugly head of xenophobia pops up. There's still a lot of tension. Migrants feel threatened to some degree. Is that a concern of the city of Johannesburg as well?
Well, I think, for me, as a mayor of the city of Johannesburg, where we probably must be sitting with the biggest number of illegal immigrants in our city, I think it goes back to the national government, why we've allowed our borders to literally collapse. South Africa needs to attract people into our country, but I think we need people to come into our country legally. We just cannot afford any country without borders, cannot be a country. So basically what is happening, our failure to have borders, controlled borders, we are actually turning our country into a failed state. And I think before we become a failed state, we need to appeal to the national government to deal with this particular matter. We just cannot afford to have people in our country who are here living criminally and so forth. So we need to deal with this particular matter, and I'm concerned with the number of the people living in our city, hijacking our buildings in particular. Basically, you're hijacking the future of this nation. Johannesburg has to be the engine to drive the economy of this country. Now, when our buildings are hijacked by criminal international syndicates, I'm warning them, this matter cannot really be tolerated. I am in discussions and with all the stakeholders, starting with civil society. I want residents of Johannesburg to please allow me to deal with this for the future, for the sake of the future of our country and our children's future. We just cannot allow our city to be hijacked and be controlled by criminal syndicates. So I'm working with law enforcement agencies. I'm working with private developers, because we want to turn Johannesburg into another construction site so that we can build houses for our people, low-cost housing, affordable housing. We want our people to come back and live in the city, work in the city, and play in the city. But for us to be able to do that, we need to take back properties that belong to the city. We need to take those buildings that are owned by private individuals, hijacked by criminal elements, I'm owning them without any doubt, and we're not apologizing to that effect, that those buildings belong to people of South Africa. If you want to live in our country, please respect the laws of our country. We just cannot allow a situation where you come from anywhere in the world and then you think you can get away to breaking the laws of this country. It's not going to happen going forward in the city of Johannesburg.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Mayor, you made quite a revelation recently around the fact that the Gauteng provincial government failed to pay their hefty municipal bills. And that's been going on for quite some time. Tell us more about this. And I think the important question for Joburg residents is, what happened to that money?
Well, I think it's actually quite unfortunate. As you're aware, the media posed this question openly to me just over a week ago, bringing to my attention that certain government departments are not paying their dues. I was not aware about it. I wasn't there yet. Obviously, I was one day going to come across it, but the media is so. That's why I sometimes appreciate and love the role that media plays in this country. And as soon as it came to my attention, I then immediately instituted an investigation into this matter. And by Friday last week, that's when I got a report that the provincial government owes the city 259 million rands. 3 departments. Mm-hmm. And I found it actually quite alarming and disturbing, because I expect government actually to play an exemplary role. Government is the one that has to ensure that people respect the laws of the country. And if that is the case, government has got to play a leading role in ensuring that people respect the laws. So for me, I found it very interesting. If I look at the province, without any doubt, they must have budgeted for these payments. What happened? What happened to the money that's supposed to have paid the city of Johannesburg, firstly? And secondly, who else do they owe if they're unable to pay the city of Johannesburg? So I can imagine they must be having other creditors on the sidelines that are not being paid. So it looks like it's a much deeper challenge than just the payment, lack of payment to the city of Johannesburg. But I have written a letter to the Premier, and we expect him to give us the sense of when we can expect this payment. We gave them 30 days, like we do it with anybody else who owes us. That people must understand, when the city provides services, you've got to pay for them if you can afford it. Yeah. Because we have communities in our city that cannot afford. And those, we believe as a city, coming out with a plan to ensure that those households are excluded from the payment. But those that can afford to pay, without any doubt, they have to pay, because we have the responsibility to ensure that we run an efficient government.
Be a part of the conversation by liking our Facebook page, that's joburgtoday.tv, and following the real trend in Joburg on our Twitter account at Joburg Today. Now, still with the mayor, he's had to make some tough decisions around funding initiatives set by the previous administration, one of which is eco-mobility. And here's the reason why.
A lot of money has been spent on this eco-mobility agenda under the previous administration. You're saying it's a waste of money. Why?
Well, it's not a waste of money as such. It's not as simple as that. Let me tell you the rationale behind my decision. I think it's not something that I just woke up and took this decision. I live in Sandton. I've lived there for just over 18 years. And I love my suburb. And it's great for it to see more improvement. But on the other hand, I have my neighbors just across the freeway, 10 minutes away from my house, people of Alexander with no basic services. no real basic services. And now, when I come across 70 million rands being budgeted for further expansion of these bicycle lanes in Sandton and surroundings, and I'm saying, no, this can't be correct. This can't be right. I think this money deserves to go to our communities where we can give them hope, can give them dignity. It's about actually closing this disparities within communities. I think we need to build bridges between communities. We just cannot afford to be spending everything in Sandton and affluent areas and leave our poor communities behind. For me, a thing like this, it's not negotiable. And I believe those communities deserve government intervention. And that's what government is all about, to ensure that we take care of the vulnerable members of your community.
Sure. And I think part of the agenda of eco-mobility was also to reduce congestion in and around the city itself. But the question is, what are we doing about solving our traffic light issues? It is extremely frustrating for me as a commuter as well. It's very hard to suck up the ongoing excuses coming through. Again, you've just taken office from the previous administration. I just can't figure out, and Joburg residents can't figure out, why can't we fix the traffic lights?
I mean, honestly, these are some of those weird things happening to Johannesburg. We have just Cape Town, traffic lights work there. London, Norway, in some of the most difficult weather conditions. And traffic lights in Johannesburg used to work. Something must have gone terribly wrong.
And this has been going on for years now.
And I've had discussions with MMC of Infrastructure Services. They really want them to really come out with a plan to get Johannesburg traffic lights working again, because this is proven technology. It's been around for what, 100 years or so? Mm-hmm. I cannot see why us as the city of Johannesburg cannot fix them. So I can promise people of Johannesburg traffic lights, maintenance and upgrade is going to receive our priority, because by so doing, then we can relieve traffic congestions on our roads.
That's great to hear, Mr. Mayor. Tell us about the housing crisis under the previous administration. You've started handing out title deeds. How is that progressing, and what is the plan there?
Well, one thing that I also find it difficult to understand, because us as the DA, we've always said during the campaign that our people deserve to get title deeds to their homes, because the ownership of a home, it's just more than just having a roof over your head. It's about having the world, owning property, owning the land. Mm-hmm. Why the previous administration was reluctant to give our people title deeds to their homes, only them can explain.
Some people
why.
We're waiting for 2 decades.
Yeah, look at in 3 weeks' time, discovered 2,000 title deeds already ready for allocation. Why they were not given? I did not create a miracle with the first batch of title deeds that we gave out last week. And right now, as I speak to you, our housing department is rolling out title deeds allocations to our people in Deep Blue for Middlelands, Orlando. And we will continue on this process. All these houses that have been given to our people as part of the RDP program, I cannot see why we shouldn't give them title deeds to these houses. So the housing department under MMC Ntuli is doing a fantastic job to speed up that process. But at the same time, we need more houses. Right now in the city of Johannesburg, we sit with such a big stock of houses, completed, some of them 5-7 years ago. Why these houses were not allocated? Some of them belong obviously to the city, some of them belong to the province. All the houses that were built here in the city of Johannesburg. We are going to engage, including the provincial government, to speed up allocation of those houses to our people. But what is also more important is to ensure that we speed up building more houses, we speed up the process of identifying pieces of land that we must service, so that by the time people are given those sites, they get the title deed, but then it must be service-sized with roads, with sewer, with water, electricity, so that whatever structure that you build, at least the basic infrastructure that the state has to provide is provided. That's what we want to do, and we'll give title deeds to our people. So those are some of the programs that we have in addressing this massive housing backlog that our city is facing.
That's very encouraging. At least we can stop talking about the housing crisis for a while. But I want to move on to the billing crisis. I chatted to the newly appointed MMC of Finance at the second sitting of council, and he told me this is one of his priority. And just to raise it again with you, because the previous administration, played very low key when it came to addressing this, residents have been frustrated because they have to go through red tape and justify why they have received an incorrect bill. Tell us more about the billing crisis.
Well, the billing crisis has been a thorny matter to the residents of Johannesburg, including my own personal household. Strange enough, the provincial government also stated yesterday that the reason why some of the payments were not done on time was because of the billing challenges. But you remember very well, I think they forget that people of Johannesburg, when it was the old administration, they used to deny the fact that there's billing challenges.
They would say it's one or two incidents, but those are
or
two incidents are too many as well.
Now you can imagine if the provincial government is aware about this and all of a sudden the other ones coming out of the woodworks. I can give you practical example of my own personal account and lots of accounts that queries that I receive every day. I just had a meeting this morning with SAPOA with their queries of property owners in the city. So this problem is massive. It is for that reason during my inaugural speech last week in council, I did state that I will be having a billing endeavor with the MMC and all the relevant stakeholders to ensure that we correct this matter as this problem as a matter of agency. I cannot understand in this day and age of technology why we are unable to charge people and charge them correctly and collect the money. I mean, honestly, one does not need to really be a rocket scientist, but you need the determination and the political will, and we have more than the will to ensure that we can correct the situation.
That's fantastic news. Mr. Mayor, on the point of crime, what do you make of the policing capability of the city currently?
Look, we, as you're aware, as a city, the law enforcement agencies under our wing is the JMPD. And JMPD's role is on bylaws. We don't have our own prisons, so we don't have our own courts. So this is a matter that can only be dealt with in conjunction and in partnership with subs and private service providers. So we are having this type of discussions. But the thing is, how you deal with crime in a sustainable manner. It's not about building more prisons and bringing more police. It's about giving people hope, because normally and generally, majority of cases of people who commit crime is because of that desperation. So this question of creating employment opportunities for me, it's really very key. It's part of fighting crime. And I'm not saying that we abdicate our responsibility short term, ensuring that I think we bring the mind of our law enforcement to deal with it. But I think we need to find a long-term sustainable solution by creating opportunities to our people. Let our youth wake up in the morning, go to work. Mothers and fathers, let them end of the month be able to buy bread, buy furniture, buy whatever for their families. Today, in our city alone, over 800,000 of our people are unemployed, 1 in 3. So it's a crisis. So if we think we can deal with crime without addressing those social issues, we'll not be able to eventually win.
I'm Bryce Nicholson, and you're watching Joburg Today.
Well, that's it for today's show. But if you want to know more about what's happening in and around Johannesburg, you're going to have to check out our playlist. From me, Leroy, and the guys behind the scenes, till next time.